I had done a video on whether or not heterosexual women should be considered biphobic or homophobic if they don't want to date bisexual men. I had also done a video on the use of the word homophobic and biphobic being thrown around or thrown at women specifically who say, no, I don't want to do that. And I'd like to discuss a comment here through a commenter. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. This commenter says they are trying to gaslight us through coercion. And so when she's saying that, she's referencing specifically the men who are saying that we are biphobic. Women who don't want to date bisexual men are biphobic. I agree with you here that there is a level of coercion, including from the person who originally started that. Um, what is interesting to me is there's no like this is like the way that this conversation is taking place on social media is it's being shoved down your throats. It's you're either you're gonna do this, or your reasons for not doing this are rooted in homophobia. There's no room for anything else, and that is a dangerous place to be, which is exactly why I agree with coercion. Whenever sex is involved, women 100% have to carry the burden of the consequences that come from sex in any capacity. STIs, pregnancies, sexual assault, deceptive means, when someone's being deceptive, you have to carry the psychological burden. And I'm not going to say that men don't have a burden, but the burden for that women have to carry is much bigger, and it's usually non-reversible. Even if they can get some sort of treatment, a lot of the emotional burdens, the weaponizations, consent, things like that, there's consequences women have to carry that cannot be easily undone. What is interesting is that is not a part of the conversation. The consideration for how women may feel, hey, you have some valid concerns. Let me help you work through your fear. Let me help you work through, what we can do to help you cope with your fears or to help you have better conversations around that. There is also no room for like PTSD or CPTSD either. That is also not a part of the conversation. Like, hey, you've gone through something, you've been lied to, or deceptive things have happened to you in your relationship, or you have PTSD when it comes to sex in general, or maybe you've had experience where something has happened. Let's talk about that. Let's unpack that and have a different conversation. Now, I'm not saying that bisexual men are deceptive by nature per se. What I will say is there is a difference between a bisexual man who is coming forward and is being open and honest and telling you that I'm bisexual. This is my history. I want to, I'm going to let you know that so that you have the opportunity to say, yes, I'm down, or no, I'm not down, versus someone who is down low or maybe even closeted and is deceptive, by coercion, because they benefit from both women and men, the sexual and emotional and physical labor of both parties, but they're being deceptive and they don't care about the consequences. Down low culture is huge right now with men, and I have a dedicated playlist of a number of videos I've made on that and how women have been hurt behind that. And I do think a large part of this conversation is like, this conversation has gone from you're biphobic to you're homophobic to I'm just what if I just don't tell you and we just do it anyway, or maybe I'll disclose later. And so it's leading into that slippery slope where I want control of the dynamic um, with us, and I'm going to gain control by any means necessary, whether that's calling you a name that's like a woman said, the equivalent of a hate crime, and that's trying to shame you into doing something that you don't want to do, as opposed to inviting you to a conversation, having a useful dialogue about it, and saying, you know what, I don't have a right to question you about your body and about your preferences and what you feel comfortable with. And I never ever am going to question a woman about that. To the conversation now going to the equivalent of like, I'm going to lie to you about my sexual history and my sexual past just to have access to you, because what you don't know won't hurt you, and it's none of your business, or I don't care about getting consent. I just want what I want, and I'm not trying to, be open and honest with you. I'm going to gain access to you by any means necessary. That is dangerous. That is predatory. You want to watch for people who are saying that kind of stuff. They are basically telling you, and they're weaponizing sex. They're using it as a control tactic. They're trying to make you feel inferior, and they're trying to make you shut up so that you're not questioning and that you're not pushing back. And I think a lot of the climate now, including the political climate, is trying to gain control over women's bodies, which makes people feel emboldened and brazen enough to come and say, well, if a woman doesn't do that with her body, if a woman's not consenting to that with her body, if a woman doesn't consent to this discussion that I want to have about access to her body, then she is this type of phobic, she is this type of person, and there's something wrong with her, and I'm going to shame her into doing that. And it's not even collaborative. It's not even like, oh, I want to hear, or it's not even saying, it's not even leading with the fact that, you know what, as a woman, you have the right to determine what happens to your body, and I respect that. If you want to have a conversation, if you're willing to like unpack some things, I'm here to support that. It's like, no, if you're not doing what I want you to do, if you're not answering to me, if you're not on my dime, then you are some sort of phobic. And once again, women are 100% carrying the burden of even being called a name. I have yet, again, I stand by this, I have yet to hear a man being called a phobic. I haven't even heard this dialogue when it comes to heterosexual men who won't sleep with a bisexual man, or a straight man who won't sleep with a straight man who won't sleep with a bi man, or a gay man per se. I have not, I've not heard this sort of weaponization of the name calling and the dog piling that goes along with it. It's astounding to me, and it's quite scary, but it's, you guys need to watch and you need to pay attention to who's dogpiling. And it's very interesting, just to watch the shift, even on my posts. You could look at the shift of the conversation go from, well, if you don't want to sleep with a bisexual man, you're biphobic, to, well, what if I just don't tell you that I'm bisexual. You can watch the shift even in the conversational tone and even in the line of thinking, to whereas they're going to do what they need to do. Certain people are going to do what they need to do in order to withhold consent and to gain power over you in the relationship. And I want to make it clear, not all bisexual men do this, but you also have to wonder about a man trying to get aggressive with a woman on any, like, even that to me is a red flag. Verbally, emotionally aggressive, trying to shove opinions down their throat, and then resorting to name calling. That in and of itself speaks to a power dynamic, and a man using their power to trying to aggress against women, to coerce them, even verbally, even emotionally, even on social media. Hope that helps. Thanks so much.